Good morning. It's Sunday, June 8th? 9th?
June 5th, I
June,
think.
June 5th. Yeah, June 5th. I'm jumping ahead. It's a rainy Sunday morning. Strange for June. Very strange for June. My name's Dustin, your humble host with Tyler, the superhuman, and today it's my special privilege to welcome Super Tom's best dojo buddy, Mark. Mr. Mark Montgomery. We've been trying to get you on here for a while. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mark, for coming.
Well, thanks for having me, gentlemen.
Yeah,
This is great.
Super excited to have you here today. Tom, my youngest son, and Mark are dojo buddies. And when I told him that I scheduled you to come out and talk with us, he was super excited. And he's like, well, you better tell him that he's my dojo buddy. And he wanted to come. And he's super pissed that he didn't get to come today.
Sitting on it.
Yeah. He wanted to, well, he'd take over. But he was super excited to hear that. So
Tom's my guy.
Yeah.
He's my guy.
He's fun. He's a lot of fun. We went to a wedding last night for some good friends of ours. The guy who got married was my ring bearer in our wedding.
All right.
Yeah. So it was raining. It started raining. It was an outdoor wedding. Totally beautiful. It was on these guys' property, and it started raining. And the wind was blowing and stuff. So we didn't stick around real long. Did the wedding, had a little bit of cake, said hi to a couple people, and then we started to go. Well, Tom didn't get to meet the bride and groom. Well, they were, they're doing their thing,
right.
The crowd full of people, and he's like, we can't leave. I didn't get to say hi to them. I was like, kid, you don't even know them. Just,
But he wanted to get in there and say hi.
It was a fight the whole way to the car, which was like out in the back 40. It was a fight the whole way home. He's a character. So, how's your foot, by the way?
It's
better.
Good.
Healing up.
Every day.
Sweet.
Better and
That's
better.
good. That's
Sweet.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, little backstory on that you just kind of one day in class, like you were, that's a danger that all of us have in doing martial arts and karate is hurting our foot,
For sure.
I would love to say that I was sparring this guy about 6'8", 280.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, the guy was just fast as lightning, but it wasn't. We were doing the drill, and I was with actually Hunter.
Yeah.
And we were going slow, and I was practicing the little front push kick, put it down, and then broke 3 toes and tore ligaments, and it was super slow motion. It was the weirdest damn thing I've ever seen.
Now, are you going to have surgery?
Don't know yet. So back and forth, it went, they're kind of recommending to orthopedic. And
okay.
But I always try to avoid all that. So, yeah.
My wife's got a problem with a ligament in her leg, and they want to. It just seems like those guys want to cut everything. Let's just cut it.
But if they cut it, then you got some other stuff you have to deal with. That's why I try to go. Take care of what you can.
Last time it was like, pump the brakes, buddy. We're gonna.
Plus, I got COVID between all that, so I had all that, and so we went through our house pretty much, and
everybody's good and healthy though.
Everyone's good to go.
Awesome.
So it's a hell of a May.
Yeah.
So
glad May's done.
I'm glad we're getting to June. See what June has for us.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's a better month.
Yeah, it's gotta be. No worries.
I think that's something that, doing karate. How long have you been in karate at this dojo now with us?
I think I've been here about 5 years.
Yeah.
Right at 5 years. Yeah, but I started back in,
before COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I started here a long time ago, but started the martial arts journey when I was about 20. So I've been doing it for 9 years now because I'm 29. Actually, no.
That put Maddie and Sid about 4 and 5.
Hey, good genes.
Yeah.
Right? No, but I started it, many years ago, 30-something years ago. So,
okay.
Yeah, so it's been an interesting journey.
One of the things that I've wanted to get you in here and kind of bend your ear on is one of the first times one of the first interactions with you that I remember that stuck out in my head. We were doing some drill in class, and you and I were standing together, and you were like, something came up, and you were like, yeah, I remember sleeping in my car when I was going to college and training jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what we were doing, but it was like one of those, you know how it is when you're standing in line, you're waiting for your turn, you have like one small conversation, and then it's like one person's turn, and the conversation ends.
Just cuts off.
Yeah, you're like, wait, I wanted to get the rest of that story. Hold on.
Yeah.
So you went to college at Chico State?
Yeah.
Okay.
Chico.
And you were training down there? Was that like
Yeah.
part of the curriculum at the school, or was that?
So, been in sports my whole life.
Okay.
You know, basketball, baseball, soccer.
Whatever.
Yeah, all that. So I did all that. And then as I got to college, you know, played baseball and did all that. Lacrosse, ran out of eligibility.
Oh, really?
Yeah, oh, yeah. So I've always wanted to do martial arts, but we could never afford to do it. You know, my parents couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
And I've always doing other sports. So I had the opportunity at Chico. They had a class, this jiu-jitsu, and I was watching it. You know, this is 1988. Right?
Okay.
And this is before it was like really popular. I'm watching this guy, Gracie. And I'm going, I give chills right now. I'm going, wow, I'm watching on TV, you know. Back then there was, 3 channels?
Yeah.
So whatever came on here, and I'm watching Gracie, and I'm watching this guy that's probably 5'8", maybe 156 pounds, taking down these giants. And I've always thought martial arts to me is mystical.
Yeah.
You know, people say, oh, you can go really kick some ass. I'm not about that. It was just how mystical and mysterious. You know, it's like magic.
In a way.
Like a sleight of hand thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so had the opportunity at Chico. I needed a PE class or exercise class to finish up my degree, and jiu-jitsu was offered, so I took it. And it was a great experience. We were in the mat room or the wrestling room, and you know, mirrors and throwing people around.
Yeah.
And I'm going, wow, I walked in and went, I don't think I'm in the right place. So, yeah, that's how I started.
And then, so that was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Japanese?
Japanese
Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah. So it was a very...
Japanese Jiu-Jitsu.
Japanese, yeah. And it had a lot of judo.
Okay.
What do you guys...
Well, they're related.
They're
like...
So it was heavy on both, actually. Heavy on the judo piece on the throws and the falls, and then also the locks.
Okay.
So that was fun. I did that for, I think, probably 2 years. And then the sensei that was there retired or left Chico State, and another sensei came in and had his own dojo, kind of a smaller place in Chico where we trained. And, you know, and we learned part of the jiu-jitsu, that particular jiu-jitsu was, if you can tear someone apart, if you would, then you have to learn to put it back together. So we would do massage, whoever your uke was, for that class or whatever you're training, you do massage. So we learned massage. And
oh, really?
Yeah, so you would do your training. We'd spend, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours training, then a half hour of just kind of meditation and massage, and then we would leave.
Wow.
So I did that.
That's kind of like a warm up and a cool down kind of thing. That's cool.
And that was fantastic. Then, you know, life hits and
get married.
I couldn't stay at Chico forever. Wanted to.
Yeah.
I loved it, and then moved to Sacramento.
Okay.
And you know, started the work thing and back to school and all that good stuff. So, yeah, and then picked it back up. Oh gosh, probably in my late 20s, I went back to jiu-jitsu again, and then did a little bit of taekwondo, just a little bit, and then couldn't afford it again, and went back to school to get to study in psychology.
Oh, okay.
And so did that, and then again, long story longer. After I finished up my education, then got back into it a bit, jiu-jitsu again, and then left it. I got married, and
oh, okay.
School was a priority of mine. So I spent a lot of time in school, and then from there started having kids. And so, you guys know when you have kids, the time commitment, everything changes. And then my wife was fantastic. She was in school, and so we put it back together, and then got back onto the mat and moved back up here, and that was kind of fun. Moved back in to Reading, and then got back with Cheryl, or Jiu-Jitsu Academy.
Okay.
We're off Bocelli down there, and started studying again, and I had back injuries and broken hands, and I've broken a lot of stuff. So yeah.
Well, it sounds to me like, you did it in college, and then you did it a little bit out of college, then back in college, and then a little bit after married life. It's always been like an interest, for you, in, then out, then in and out, and but because of life events, there's things come up, and so, but I'm seeing a trend that that's something that's really stuck through your life.
Yeah, you guys know. Once you get bit by that bug, it never goes away. And the timing, I'm a firm believer, it just happens when things happen. So I'm never on a timeline, especially with the arts, because that's just more of a, when you're ready, you will find it, or it will find you. And so I did a lot of exploration. And again, back to when we moved back up here, I had my 3 kids in jiu-jitsu since they were 2, 3,
Oh, wow.
So they've studied, and to me, it's just more of the discipline, and obviously protection, but the confidence. It builds discipline, confidence. They focus on, I believe between right and wrong.
Yeah.
Hopefully they make the right decisions. So that's a good thing.
Well, and it seems to make people nicer.
Yeah, it does.
A lot more respectful towards each other.
You know what getting thrown on the ground feels like, or what getting punched in the face is.
Yeah.
Whereas most people really don't know what that's like. And you can kind of tell talking to people when they talk about how, what they would do theoretically or whatever, and you're like, you've never been hit in the mouth. You've never, and until you actually, just like anything else, until you actually experience something, you really don't know what that is. And it's...
Yeah. So we stopped again.
Okay.
Then kids got into volleyball and softball, and my son baseball and basketball.
Doing all of that.
So I did a lot of coaching.
Sports.
Yeah. So we kind of left that for a bit when they got into that middle school age, and then started exploring other. I figured, had a back injury. That was like 4 years. So that was pretty bad. But got over that, went back, and I just couldn't take the falls. I thought I couldn't take the falls like I used to, and I was right. So I had I broke my hand, and then figured, okay, I got to look at a different art. And then Maddie, who is my youngest, she decided not to play volleyball or basketball in high school. She played the first year, and then she said, hey, let's get back on the mat. And so that was huge. I credit her for getting me back into the swing of things. Yeah. And then we started exploring. I've done Aikido, and I've done karate and all that. Did many different arts. And then when we came out here to the dojo that was over next to the police station over there. Yeah. Met Sensei Court, and I was really impressed with just the feel, if you would, of the dojo. You walk in, it wasn't MMA, it wasn't UFC, it wasn't, the cage fighting stuff. Yeah. So we were over there, and then it happened to be, we went in, I believe, on a Thursday or a Friday, Maddie and I, and then he said, hey, why don't you come back on Saturday? We're doing a Arnis black belt test for
Guru Armstrong.
Okay.
So we went back, and I was sold as this is great. It wasn't even. It was
Arnis. Yeah. How cool.
So that's how we got back.
And then. And
the rest is history.
Yeah.
So is basically your daughter, your youngest daughter, Maddie, that was like, hey, let's get back into this. Like
she did, and so we made a commitment. her and I, is I've always wanted to be a black belt. Just personally, that's been a goal of mine, and it's one of those goals where there's flexibility.
Yeah.
But as I get older, that flexibility seems to be less, keep squishing down as far as years.
Yeah.
So I figured this will be my last swing at it, right? And so my goal is before I'm 55. I'm 54 now, so I'll be testing this summer or probably October.
Okay. That's the goal.
So yeah, that's what we committed to go the same belt. If she's ready, and I'm not, and then she'll wait.
Yeah, vice versa.
And if I'm ready, then I'll wait. And it's more like she's always ready and waiting. And then my oldest daughter jumped in. So
Sid.
She did.
Yeah.
And so it's been, this art to me was much different. Sensei court. I don't know if you guys remember, when I first started, I was always open hands and crouch position, and I'm taking everybody to the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
you still do that.
what I like about Sensei is that he recognized that early and says, you're going to do two things. You're going to stay off the ground, and philosophically that was a shift for me. Because I wanted to go to the ground.
That's where you're comfortable.
I like to be up close and personal in your space. I like that. And he said that there's nothing wrong with that. And that's kind of one of those aha moments where he said there's nothing wrong with that, but I also want you to do this. Keep your distance, keep your critical distance. Learn to kick. Use other weapons, because one weapon is good, but when you have 10 then it's going to be better.
Yeah.
If the one you lose isn't working.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me.
Yeah.
Because our art, we're using it all. I mean, this is the only art, in my opinion, that you can, it captures everything. I wasn't a strong fighter, if you would, puncher, but, that's changed.
Could have fooled me when you came in, man. I mean, you got those straight punches, those straight strikes.
So it is. I mean, then you have the holds.
Yeah.
And you have the kicks, and you guys know that's not my strength, is the kicks. But I'm going to work. I'm working very hard. Anything below the waist, I'm going to own. But anything,
that's right.
I'm not. I'm not going to kick anyone's head off.
Yeah.
That's
awesome. That's so awesome. That's so awesome. I had a small list of questions that I wanted to ask, kind of just so I don't fly off the rails. I've been listening back to these, and I go off and I lose the original point. So I'm trying to bring my focus in a little bit more. But and you kind of answered this already, but I wanted to put a little border around it. What do you like about the martial arts? And what I, totally broad question, but what I mean by that is like, the thing I like about the martial arts is like, for an example, it's like a chess game. And I'm trying to always figure out what works next, right? And it's not always the same thing. Usually with a beginner, you figure out something and it's almost always the same thing, unless they catch on. But once you get some experience under your belt and you get caught, then you switch it up, right? And it's like always trying to find the right puzzle piece to fit in there, or the right chess move to make the next thing happen, right? And that's my thing. I like that. I don't have a strategy. I don't have a bunch of strategy. I'm not a strategic thinker. I like to figure out the puzzle and make that work, right? What is it about martial arts for you? What's the thing that, Tyler, anybody, what's the thing that makes it work?
Well, for me, I think I don't ever have a plan. And I think that is a huge asset for me, but also a detriment.
Yeah.
What I like most is that I like to relax and process. Let's say when we're sparring.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, like with Tyler, for an example, you know, some days he's very aggressive and some days you're not. So I don't know who, I operate from whatever that person's going to give me.
And respond accordingly.
I'm going to take it or I'm going to leave it alone depending if they're for training or whatever it might be. So I don't really, you know, that part to me is always interesting. And you guys know that I am not really, I'm not very aggressive in the initial piece because I'm more of the situational awareness, even when we're in the dojo.
Yeah.
I'm kind of, okay, where are they out of bounds? Where's the, what's going on? How much energy? I think of them, to answer your question, I think I'm taking that energy, and this is what I've learned a long time ago is, you know, how do you redirect that energy? Because I can spend, or we can spend a lot. Like when you're first starting, you're spending a lot of energy just
trying to keep up.
Going hard.
Yeah.
And you peter out. You know, and you get sloppy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when you get sloppy, you get hit. And you know, when you get hit, it hurts. And as you guys know, I mean, I'm not the sharpest person in the tool in the shed, and it's, you know, you're there for a reason.
Yeah.
And the more that you train and the more that you're into the martial arts, the more you realize you don't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
I am humbled every day when I walk through these doors.
Yeah. Even
when I'm teaching a class or assisting or doing whatever I'm doing, every day I learn something, and every day I just go home going, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
And so I'm always learning, you know.
That's cool. That's awesome. No, that's a good way to be, because in my own experience, every time I've walked out anywhere going, I got that piece of cake, I get humbled.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
humble pie.
Life finds a way to be like, no, you don't. So I like that.
Yeah,
That's cool.
So it sounds like you do like that, the whole saying of empty your cup, like every time you walk out, like you're emptying your cup saying, oh, I don't know. When you really do know stuff, but you're saying, I don't know anything, like as far as there's so much to learn.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Well, I mean, you have expectations. Mm-hmm. So if I'm sparring with you or with Dustin or with Sensei Court or Sensei Hovis or when Sensei Blue got here or came over and.
Which was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, really, you're going, okay. You know, everyone has their strengths, and what I try to do is borrow those and go, oh, hey, what'd you do there? Oh, that was pretty interesting. And I said, do it, you know, you guys
do it again.
I don't make you guys do anything, but,
yeah.
You know, when we're sparring and you, bam, you know, or you
something
really,
works
really well. I said, do that again for me so that I know then I'm, you know, when I'm blocking or whatever it is. And most of the time, when you do it again, I don't get it, still get hit. But I go home thinking, damn, that was pretty damn good.
That was good.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, yep, that was pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome. That is really cool.
Yeah, I think the longer, definitely I think it's one of those interesting things that the higher rank you get, the more you start admitting, like, oh, wait, I don't know as much as I thought I knew. Like, you know stuff, but you don't know, like, it's just that emptying that cup, you know, saying, like, oh, I know what I know, but empty my cup. I remember being, like, around, gosh, I want to say in our art, blue belt. Mm-hmm. Like, I was around blue belt. And I thought I had it down. I was like, I'm a karate martial artist, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
I got my ducks.
I'm ready for anything.
My ducks are lined up. They're in that row. Yeah.
Yeah. And then right when I got right around green belt, right about midway, and then you get into that last final quarter stretch, I was like, oh, nope, I still have a lot to learn. And then get to black belt, and it's like, oh, I've still got a lot to learn, you know?
Yeah.
So I agree with that. I totally agree with that. It's a constant refining process. Refine what you know, and getting rid of what you don't want and it doesn't work for you, and then bringing in what does. You know, it's like that Bruce Lee quote.
Yeah, get rid of what's useless and or what's I can't remember.
I'm trying to think of it too, but it's essentially keep what is good, get rid of what is useless, and make it your own. Something like that. Yeah, it's a.
Well, here at this dojo with Sensei Core and you guys, I mean, it's always for me a privilege to be here.
Yeah.
You know, and to learn from you guys and from Sensei and, Sensei Hove, the black belts here. And it's like, no one knows what that takes. And what you guys did, or what you're doing, and then how you give back is even more important. And I mean here, yes, but also how you're giving back outside of here. Believe it or not, what we do here is also impactful outside of the dojo, which is even more important into the community, into whatever jobs that you're doing, and whoever you're socializing with, or whatever it is. Because there's only two ways to go with this. Obviously, it's you're going to be that guy, which we all know, or you going to be that guy that
everybody wants to know.
Is supportive and community based and loving and caring and kind.
People can count on you.
Keep things simple.
Go ahead.
I didn't have. I was just thinking that's good. That's really good.
There's another podcast the Black Belt Magazine does with Harinder Singh does. He's had some really interesting guys on there, but there's a quote that he says at the end of each episode that's really interesting. And I can't remember who originally is credited with the quote. I think it's a veteran. But he talks about wherever you go, everyone's a little safer. Wherever, everyone has a friend, everyone should feel more confident, comfortable. And it's kind of a long quote. But it's basically, it's what I think most, speaking for men, most men would want to be known for. Like, people have a friend, people have somebody that they can rely on, count on, and be a little safer with. That protector, that, good qualities and stuff. Anyway, that was just interesting. What you were saying kind of reminded me of that. And it's like, that's the kind of person most people look at and want to be. That hero figure, for lack of a better word, just a quality, decent human being, not the tough guy that everyone's afraid of. Because that's not a person you can really trust. If you have to fear somebody, that's not somebody that you can go, oh well, if I need somebody to help me cover a class or my car broke down, give me a ride, do I really want to call the guy that might thump me? I'd much rather call the guy that'd be on the other side of that spectrum.
Right? Yeah, you don't want to call Darth Vader.
Don't call Darth Vader. That's good. That's awesome.
No, that's an interesting point that you bring up, that I don't think I really have thought as much about that as I should have, is that what happens here reverberates out, as much. Like, sometimes you just think that, oh, we come to the dojo and we train and, and then we take it with us, But yeah, you're right. The little 10-year-old that trains here in the class over and over and over, and then goes to school, he has an impact, in his class at recess, and maybe he sees some bully on the playground picking on some other kid that maybe used to pick on him, now picks on someone else, and now he might be able to handle that situation better. Or somebody that's in the workplace that's an adult, that maybe didn't have as much respect for themselves in the workplace, and now they have a lot more. I've heard that over and over and over, from people.
Yeah.
And I've seen it myself too. So that's interesting, how it reverberates out.
I like your point. I mean, the kids we didn't even talk about. The kids that we instruct, you hit it right on the head. They're watching and learning from
Oh,
us
yeah.
on how we're responding to their nonsense. You know?
Yes.
And they're going to mimic, because Sensei Dustin or Sensei Tyler or Sensei Corey, you know, that's how they do it. That's how they manage their problems.
Yeah.
Littler problem, obviously, littler problems in the dojo with behavior.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, I have a hard time because I'm in my head a lot. So I do a lot of thinking, and my background is psychology and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of a good tie for me, because I just we're born the same day, so it's the.
Oh, you guys share a birthday? I didn't know that.
So we have this analytical thinking thought process, being prepared.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, I'm not talking behalf of you by no means, but just in my world, it's, you know, I've always wanted to prepare, and I'm always focused. I'm structured. You know.
Yeah.
So part of that, bringing that to teaching and to kids, is, you know, be prepared, be respectful.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Say thank you.
Yeah. Say yes, sir, no, sir. Yes, ma'am. No,
Hold
ma'am.
the door open.
Yeah.
You know, do kind, nice things. When you do kind and nice things for people, guess what you get back?
Comes
Kind and nice things, you know?
for sure.
It just goes hand in hand.
For
Sorry,
sure.
I'm
No,
jumping off
no,
on another-
No, that's good.
I'm going somewhere else with it.
No, that's actually a great point. You don't realize the impact. You know, that's one of those things that, like, I know people that struggle with that a lot. They think people don't like them or don't think very highly of themselves, and like, that's you. You know, you're not thinking highly of yourself. You have no idea the impact you have, or the amount of reach you have, because that's not something that people talk about every day. You know, you don't go to everybody and be like, hey, you know, the stuff that you did last week, that was really impactful and helpful to me. I mean, when's the last time you've done that? That doesn't happen. That's not normal conversation. You know, you might say, hey, you know, good to see you, whatever, have a good day. That kind of stuff's normal conversation. But sit down and tell somebody the impact that they had on your life. How often does that happen?
Yeah.
You know, that almost never. You know, every once in a while, you might have somebody that says something like that to you, but on a daily basis, that stuff doesn't happen. You don't know the impact you have unless you're a flaming jerk. You probably find that out pretty quick. But you know, you don't realize the scope of influence that everybody has. In daily interactions, in the dojo, at work, school, wherever you may be, those things, you know, people watch each other. That's, you know, you're interacting, you're having experiences, and those things they're important. And it's kind of weird that we don't talk about that more.
Well, and being instructors,
Yeah.
that's huge. I mean, and again, I don't know, I just play these games, but you do the math on that, right? So you're instructing a class of 10.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone has a mom and dad. Now, may not be mom and dad, may be there, may not be there. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not going there with it. But then they have a family and they have friends, and so you take a look at that one student. I call it the sphere of influence for that person that you're providing is enormous. It grows. So your 10 students turns into over 1,000 that you're impacting through one.
Because they have impact.
It's the old saying, like, you know, I always try to teach my kids, and I tell them I'm the same person Friday night as I am Sunday morning. You know, and that's the whole idea of, you know, the discipline component. I mean, in other words, what do you do when no one's looking? You know, are you going to do the right thing? And that's, you know, we're all challenged with it every day. But when we're teaching, then you have that additional, I think it's a responsibility, just myself.
Yeah.
Because you're influencing not only the kids, but also, you know, you're representing the dojo and you're representing Sensei Court, and there's a high level. So there's a lot of responsibility that goes with it. I feel that same way in the workplace. And
Yeah.
stuff that I do too. So it's kind of you know, I've always kind of like to re-examine that, you know, weekly on things I could have done better, or interacting. I go back and try to get with that person if I feel I've done a job that wasn't satisfactory as it relates to communicating.
Yeah. One of the first classes I taught here on my own, there was it was one of the first couple of classes. I was by myself, no help. And it was 18, 20 kids. And I'm just lost. I'm totally overwhelmed. And I'm trying to help everybody. And I got 3 different groups. And I'm running all over the place. By the time class is done, I'm sweating. And almost hyperventilating. I'm just get them out of here, And one of the grandparents, one of the parents, I don't know who it was, said in passing, "You didn't work with my kid. You didn't see my kid at all."
Huh.
And I first thought was did you not see me running like a madman out here for the last hour? And then I got to thinking about it, and it was okay, I should have, I could have spent 10 seconds with them. I could have spent a little bit of time. I could have made sure that I hit. And since that time, I've tried to make sure, and sometimes I succeed, sometimes I fail miserably, but I try and have an interaction with each and every student. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's super easy. Sometimes it's really difficult depending on what's going on, how many people, and what we're working on. But I since then, I was okay, I'm never going to hear that again. Yeah. I'm going to make sure that you can say whatever you want, but you can't say that I didn't work with each student. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it's not perfect. Sometimes I succeed, sometimes I fail. But it was I took it as instead of getting ticked off by it, I took it as a personal challenge. Okay, I'm never going to hear that complaint again. I might hear a whole bunch of other complaints.
But not that one.
But not that one. You're not going to hear me. Yeah. Okay. So it's cool. But that discipline and influence thing, I totally agree with that. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and down the road, those types of things, that discipline and influence that we have, then that kid that's now, little Johnny, as we'll call him, that's now 10, how will that influence him? That's just a little snowball right now. Yeah. And how will that influence him when he's 12, 14, 16, 18, a lot of that stuff.
Making those decisions.
Yeah. I think, was it you that was talking about you had done, or maybe it was somebody else I was talking about, but how stuff they had learned. Oh, it was Sensei Myers. He was saying that to this day, he had an art teacher who was always encouraging him, and I don't know if you remember this, but he was talking about it, and how this art teacher was very encouraging of doing what you want and following your passions, and that really fueled him even into his adult life. Yeah. But having that art teacher so far back, and that was still affecting him. What we're doing now, what are the repercussions, not the repercussions, or the good repercussions, but the reverberations, and what you call it, your sphere of influence. Mm-hmm. That it doesn't extend just now into the present, but it's the future, which is so interesting.
Yeah. Well, you see it with your own kids. You got them in martial arts, and they got you back.
And they got you back in. Yeah.
There's parents here that have brought their kids because they trained with Sensei Blue or used to train with Sensei Court when they were kids and stuff. And, well, that's why my family's back. I trained with Sensei Blue, like you, 30 years ago. and had to do the math. 30 plus years ago, and always wanted to get back into it, but never, I didn't have the discipline. I didn't have a good enough reason, or I was scared. I don't know. You can say whatever you want. It was something that was always in the back of my head. If I ever get back into this is what I want to do. I want to get back in. And then when we had kids and that whole story, that was the catalyst to kicking that off. I remember feeling good leaving. I remember being excited to go. It was one of the extracurricular activities that I remember as a kid doing and not complaining about having to go.
Mm-hmm.
Like I did Boy Scouts, I did soccer, Little League, all that stuff. And it's exciting. It was super fun. And then after a certain period of time, I was like, I don't want to go practice. I don't want to, I don't want to go to Cub Scouts again or Boy Scouts or whatever. Can we not do it? And, fighting with the parents and everything. And this was one thing that I remember doing and not having to, I was like, all right, I'm going tonight after school. We're going to go train, blah, blah, blah. Not fighting about that.
Yeah.
Huh.
And then, that was a positive for sure for me.
A positive result.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like you were saying, that was something you always wanted is the black belt.
Yeah.
Like that, that was always something that I wanted to achieve. And then like now that I have that, the first couple of weeks that I had that was really surreal. And I was like, okay, I'm cool. I'm done. I got what I wanted. And I kept finding myself coming back, And my wife's like, well, you got what you wanted. Are you going to, Well, I'm like, there's all this other stuff I want to do.
Yeah.
There's another martial art I want to train in.
Yeah.
Here's another one I want to train in. I just got to find the right school. And she's like, wait a minute. We already go to one. And I'm like, well, hey, you ask, There's not enough time in the week or money in the checkbook sometimes.
To do it all.
Yeah.
I got something I want to circle back around to, and I think this is something I heard years ago, and I believe this is true, and I think a lot of people will agree with this, so you said you're the same person Friday night as you are Sunday morning, right? So I've heard this many different from many different people, is that we as people, we wear different masks for different situations that we're in.
Oh,
right?
totally.
And I think that's something we can all agree on. So, maybe some people wear a certain mask when they're at work, and some people then wear a certain mask when they're with friend A, then a different mask with friend D, and so, then you wear a different mask at church. I saw that growing up. People wear very different masks at church, and I mean, not to pick on church. I'm just saying in general, you wear different masks in different areas. So that being said, but then that seems not to be a problem for you from what you're saying. Like you're the same person Friday night as you are Sunday morning.
Yeah, just for personal development, that's been a goal of mine to achieve for the last 30 years. And part of that is that, the field that I'm in, I work with folks that have chronic and persistent mental health challenges, substance abuse, and, folks that nobody wants to see. You call them the shadow people, you know what I mean? They're my guys and gals. And so when you are heavily involved with a person that's in need, you have to first appreciate the person for who he or she is. And it's interesting because there's a lot of policy and procedures and things, on what I do and clinical stuff and all that good stuff, which is absolutely necessary. But it's also, if you can't communicate at the level that people are at, then you're gonna have a problem. And so if you stay consistent with your communication and who you are, and identify your faults or weaknesses, and being able to say, yeah, wow, I missed that. It's that old saying, being comfortable in your skin. Well, of course, do I get irritated? Yeah, absolutely. I get happy. Yeah, I mean, it's not the emotional piece I'm referencing. It's just, how are you going to manage who you are and let that person determine which direction he or she's going to go with. So it's not my decision to walk with you in your journey. It's your decision to let me walk a step behind you in your journey to support. And so that's, been something where, for me, I'm heavily involved with a lot of politics and state stuff. And, policymakers and all that good stuff. So I would say a character flaw for me is I'm hypersensitive to folks making decisions that have never done the work. So if you're telling, on a clinical side, if you're, making a wonderful policy and you're sitting behind a desk, which is great, I'm not, I think that's absolutely necessary and I appreciate that. But if you haven't done the work and you're changing things, then it's difficult to try to drive that bus.
When you have no idea which direction you're going.
You have a direction, but it's not the direction that, again, it's about customer service, what I do, clients and whatnot.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a different thing. I mean, I try to, talk with people. I personally don't care if you're the president of the United States or you're a person that's homeless. I'm going to talk to you the same way I talk to anyone. I mean, that's my goal. I mean, obviously there's parliamentary structure and there's things that you have to
courtesy
mask up on.
Yeah.
I'm a good cusser, so I can't, I really can't do that in front of certain people. But
yeah,
I mean, obviously I will be mindful, if you would, of my environment.
Yeah. But you're not going to change who you are depending on.
Well, it's just always constant. You guys know it's constant work. You're constantly working, like we do here. You develop and constantly work to make yourself better. And and then how you define better. I mean, who defines that? You.
Yeah.
So, it's just conflict.
That's awesome.
Conflict.
Yeah.
Conflict.
Mindful conflict. You're constantly. You guys know. I mean, you're assessing and always going, okay, could I do this better? Or what are they going to think? And what are people going to think of me if I do this? And I mean, it's really, you hit it in a couple minutes ago. You're talking about what other people are going to think about X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
This might sound very rash, but people really don't care.
No, they're too caught up. They're too caught up in their own stuff.
Right, people are caught up, and we're thinking what others are thinking. What others aren't thinking and don't.
Well, it's like driving on the freeway and cutting somebody off.
Exactly.
It's because you're not thinking about the person behind you. You're thinking about 10 other things.
Right.
Bills that got to get paid, or errands to be ran, or how you pissed off your wife that morning because you didn't do something, and then you inadvertently cut somebody off, ruin the person's day behind you. That's one thing that martial arts has made me easier to deal with, made things easier to deal with me. Mm-hmm. That kind of stuff would ruin my day. Mm-hmm. I've told this story before, but when so I went from working in a grocery store and literally running from the back to the front of the store, doing whatever job I had to do and running back because I had milk, sour cream, all of the dairy stuff out. I had to get a load of that stuff in, 2 to 3 pallets of crap. I had to put that away in the refrigerator because I had a bunch of other crap that was in there that was in the way that I couldn't just throw the pallets in the refrigerator and be done with it. I had to put it on the shelf so people would buy it. This stuff's all sensitive to the temperature. While that's going on, I'm getting called up front to handle, groceries or check out somebody or deal with shoplifters or whatever. So I'm constantly running back and forth all day long. Bang, bang, bang. High pace, very fast. At the end of the day, I'm done. I'm spent. I go from that job to a job that I have now, sitting at a desk talking on the phone all day. And then getting up and packing a package that's roughly the size of a brick to ship it to wherever. No physical labor compared to what I was doing. So, complete mind shift, dealing with customers on the phone and having people not personally attack you, but attack you on a completely different level intellectually.
Like
on a professional level. Hey, this package didn't show up at this time, or you sent this to my home and I wanted it sent here, and blah, 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 blah. Little detail stuff that you might miss, or how come you don't know the answer to my question? Well, just doing this, just started this whole thing, you know, that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff would really just ruin me. And so this has taught me how to deal with that. I mean, like the job that I have now, it took me like 5 years to learn how to deal with just the East Coast. People in New York have a whole different mindset. Born and raised in California, everybody's a dude, right? Everything's like just, I'm laid back. I'm kind of a chill. I don't, over there, and I'm totally stereotyping, and I apologize, but generally in New York, it's fast paced. Everything's going. Sure. I have a question for you. I don't have time. You need to give me the answer. No screwing around. Let's go. That's the kind of attitude that I was not accustomed to. And so I'd get people calling me on the phone, and I'm kind of slow. Just slow paced, you know,
ease
like
into
that.
it.
Yeah. Well, you know, how's your day today? I don't give a damn. Yeah. Let's go. You know, that kind of thing. And so that took me a long time to deal with. And so I spent a good 5 years of my life just pissed off, just angry at the world because I couldn't deal with that. And it wasn't like a personal attack. It was just, this is the way it is, and let's go. Long story, sorry. But so I eventually learned that on my own, but that was a real struggle. I think had I been doing this at the same time, training martial arts, getting punched in the mouth, like I like to say, that wouldn't have bothered me. That would have been water off a duck's butt, you know. It would have been fine. Because once you get punched in the mouth, like other problems, they're not that, you know, they're not that serious, really. You know, you can kind of deal with stuff.
That's the ultimate reality check.
You know, yeah.
Or you get kicked in the face.
Or you get kicked in the face. Yeah.
Black eye.
We did the kidnapping drill last week.
Oh, did we?
And I picked the kid up over my shoulder. I was being a smart aleck. Yeah. The little guy, Rowan. I picked him up over my shoulders. Freaking elbowed me right in the head. I almost dropped him. I just set him down because I was afraid I was gonna drop him. So because he was going to town, he was just like wild animal. So I put him down, and then the next kid I grabbed, I'm like, I'm not gonna pick this one up because he might be a little squirrely too. So I picked him up. I grabbed him by his arm, and he straight on groin kicked me like hard. The whole, all the parents were watching. They're like, oh, you know, it was the collective.
That was a good one.
The collective, oh.
Sensei got kicked.
Yeah. No, but what I'm saying is that, you know, other, you choke them out. Yeah. No. Don't start saying that. It was good fun, though. It was good fun.
That sounds like I didn't have anything.
Oh, okay. I thought you had something to say.
No. Oh, well, I did have when I was in film school in San Jose, I had a roommate towards the end of my time there. He was a black belt in judo. He had came over from New York. And he has said the same thing. He's like, in New York, he's like, I feel like I can get a read on people like right away. Like I know where they're at emotionally, mentally, like right away. He's like, I come out to California, he's like, I can't get a read on anybody. Everyone's a lot more, he didn't say protected or guarded, but it was something to that effect. Like we're a lot more reserved on like our emotions and our, like where we are. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So I've heard that from more than one person. So that is definitely a challenge.
It was really interesting. You know, like I was talking about earlier, I spent 5 years just pissed off because I couldn't figure it out. Once I figured it out, and there was like a handful of people there, they called in. Like I'd literally look at the caller ID and be like, I'm not answering that because I'll that will ruin my day.
Take a message.
Yeah, take a message. Or hopefully somebody else will get that phone before I pick it up, you know. And then there were other people that were the complete opposite. There's a doctor in New York that still calls me, and I see him at seminars. Well, before COVID, I used to see him at seminars, and I'd be like, "That's the nicest doctor or nicest man in New York, the state of New York. How's that guy doing?" Talk to him back and forth. Super cool guy, very mellow. And I asked him one time, I'm like, how do you live in that city? Because he's in New York City, downtown. How do you live there? You're so nice. Everybody else is such an a-hole. Like, what are you doing? And he's like, listen, I've lived here my whole life. I wouldn't know what to do if I wasn't here. I love this place. All you have to do is give it back. Just show them the same that they're giving you, and everything will be good. And that was like the one piece of advice that like saved my life at this job. It was like, and they weren't looking for a fight. They were looking for, what's this guy made of? Am I going to be able to push you over? Are you going to bend over backwards if I push a little bit? Or are you going to stand up for yourself? Are you going to at least that's what I got out of it. And it worked for me for the most part. The minute if they asked a question, I better fire right back with an answer. Like right now, right, wrong, or indifferent. Give them what they're asking.
It sounds like you figured it out.
Yeah. And a lot of times I'd be like, hey, I don't know. I'm still new here. I'll get you somebody that does. Hang on.
Yeah.
And then bang, bang. After that, it was so much smoother. But it took me 5 flipping years to figure that out. I mean, I would drive home and I have the windows rolled up, crank the stereo up, and just the whole way home, It was really tough, but yeah, you live, you learn.
We called that among my circle of friends, like, I don't know, there's many different terms for that, but when somebody is testing you to see if you are who you say you are, or if you are what you're made of, we call that a shit test.
Yeah.
Okay.
A shit test. They're testing you on your stuff to see if you are who you say you are.
Yeah.
Or are you BSing me?
Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
Well, you've been in the military. 20 years ago, I couldn't handle somebody screaming in my face. I would have broke down. That'd have been it. I'd have been a blimmering mess. Now I can deal with it. I feel like with the right mindset, you can do anything.
Sure.
But at the time when all the recruiters were calling me and stuff, no way. I wouldn't have handled it. I couldn't have handled it. I didn't have the tools necessary to deal with that. Now I probably could. I wouldn't want to, but I probably could deal with it, Just like the job. I mean, it literally almost broke me. But I couldn't quit. I couldn't quit. I had a family. I needed that insurance.
Mm-hmm.
I had too many things riding on that. So, but it was a tough lesson to learn.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, anybody could probably do the military these days. I don't even know if they're allowed to scream and yell at you anymore. When I joined, it was they could scream and yell at you, and there was other stuff that happened, but now I don't even know if they're allowed to even look at you the wrong way when you're in training. As soft as it's got.
Well, that's a cycle. That
is
unfortunately
a cycle.
That's usually tough times follow that. Unfortunately. Go ahead. No.
I'm just super fascinated by that, because I've heard by what you were talking about just the masks thing, and that's something I'm going to take away. Is be the same person you are on Friday night that you are on Sunday, or on Sunday that you are on Friday, because you can just see that in. I see that in my friends. I see that in myself. I see that in all kinds of people. You see it in kids. Adults. different situations they're in, they wear different masks, and I think that's something that is really good for people to look at, is to be consistent in who you are in every situation with everyone you talk to, rather than, I mean, there's a difference between adapting yourself to a situation, or a person, versus like totally putting up a mask or a shield and now you're lying, or or you're being somebody else. And I think that's a really valuable lesson to take away from this.
Yeah.
So I like what you said. I agree with both of you. Not to push back, but so are you saying like you treat you act the same, right? Like you try to be the same person you are with your kids as you are with Tyler or with people at work?
That's the ultimate goal.
Okay.
But, I mean,
because sometimes that's got to be tough.
Well, yeah. I mean, it depends on your audience.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't. I try not to use choice words.
There's certain language
in a setting,
right,
with 6-year-olds.
Governmental officials.
Right. Okay.
And that's adapting to a situation. Yeah.
Right.
But you were still the same person.
Yeah. My approach would be the same at whatever I'm trying to communicate.
The language might be a little.
I vary the language based on audience. Obviously, it's much easier, in my opinion, to communicate with my kids, family, more faster, more direct.
Yeah.
It is. And again, I mean, you hit on that. You have to be mindful of your audience. You have to be mindful of the other person's experience. I work with, like I mentioned earlier, I have the privilege of working with folks that are severely underserved. So I've been doing it for 30 years.
Okay.
And so when you're working with someone that doesn't have a lot of resources and he or she receives something, how grateful. That kind of changed me in my 20s. A huge, like, wow.
Gratitude.
Yeah, what is this all about? You know what I mean? What is this?
For
What is this really all about? Is it the new house and the new car and all that? No.
That's not important.
It's about the relationship and what you can do for other people. The more you do for other people, the more you receive. I mean, that's just been, and sometimes it's not a lot. It's not monetarily. It's not, sometimes it's picking up a call and making things happen for folks, and you get that. I mean, my experience, again, I've seen some folks that, people don't want to see. I mean, I've seen some really tragic stories. Yeah. And, 2 ways you can do that. You can either fool and let it affect you, which it does.
You can't walk away from that without it affecting you somehow.
You learn how to adapt into, how can you work with that person to get through whatever it might be. So, or work real hard with kids with mental illness. I mean, you want to make sure these kids get the care that they need up front, so we don't see them when they're 27 homeless and,
hooked on
the streets.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of the mentality that I try to work with. And again, don't let me fool you. I work on it every day.
Well, yeah, but you have to. That's
by no means. I really don't want you to think, oh my gosh, I'm an expert on anything like that. That has just been one of those constant areas of improvement that I have to be mindful of. I think everyone does, but
sure.
And everyone has their time. I mean, you mentioned earlier 5 years. Well, yeah, sometimes it takes 6. There's no time.
I'm a slow learner.
Sometimes it takes 2 months. Sometimes it depends on the person.
Yeah. It's funny that you were mentioning that. I used to sell real estate. Mm-hmm. I've done a lot of stuff. The guy that ran the business, really cool guy, a friend to this day. This was 18 years ago. Mm-hmm. So anyway, to this day, and he was talking about, because you spend a lot of time one-on-one with people that you just meet. Somebody might walk in the office for the first time, and they're like, hey, I want to go see the house down here on the corner, blah, blah, blah. That's a potential sale. So you don't want to you want to hit where the iron's hot. They want to look at a house. They're ready to go. They've got their paperwork all lined up. They got a loan or they have cash or whatever. Bang, go. Drop it. Drop whatever it is you're doing and go get that money. But when you get somebody in the car, you're going to start talking to them. And he would talk about how you want to make them comfortable and you might match, not so much trying to change who you are, but to make them comfortable so that things don't get awkward. You might cuss if they cuss a little bit. You might speak how they speak. Or, if they're real fast and hyper and excited, you get excited. Or if they're slow, you mirror, and at first I was thinking like, so I'm going to just change who I am to mimic them. And he's like, no, it's not that. You're just trying to make them feel comfortable so they don't get weirded out because you're some creeper. You gotta make people feel comfortable, and he goes, you'll find that people come back to you.
Yeah, it's adapting.
It's adapting, and that's what it is.
Situation.
It's adapting.
Yeah.
He taught me a lot of cool like psychological tricks, really cool stuff. Some that I use to this day, and one like if you're ever talking on the phone. This one really stuck with me. If you're ever talking on the phone and you're sitting down and the conversation gets tense, stand up. They don't see you. It doesn't matter what you do to them. But standing up puts a psychological trick on you, and it's more of a... Because sitting down is like a compliance or passive. Yeah. If you stand up, you're more assertive, more aggressive. Huh. And it does a switch in your brain. So that kind of stuff is always like, stuck with me. I don't know, and I use it to this day. I stand up on the phone at work all the time, and I'll pace and walk around the whole office and stuff.
When I first started my career, I was a stockbroker for about a year.
Really?
Yeah, I was about 22, and I was in Sacramento, and they gave me this book of business, and I was really into wanting to be Wall Street, and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So it was interesting. So I had this book of business, and it was very nice. The people were very nice, and I would talk to them, and then I started really thinking about the folks that were on the book of business, and they would call it book of business, your clientele, right?
Okay.
And I remember talking to folks. Some of them are retired teachers and retired folks that have worked and have pensions, and they're coming to a 22-year-old dumb kid. Who's asking for financial advice, and I'm plugging in a computer and spits out stuff, and I'm going, hey, listen. It became overwhelming, meaning I tell them, hey, listen, I am in no position to manage your finances. You worked your whole life. I plug this in the computer, this is what it's saying, and I really think you should go to someone else. And so
you were losing business.
Yeah, but the irony of that was I'm not a salesperson, believe it or not, but I was salesperson of the year because I had more people coming back to me. I said, I'm not going to give you advice. I'm going to listen. I'm going to work with people. I'm going to watch your finances.
Yeah.
And I did very well because I was pretty transparent with
you.
folks.
Were honest.
Yeah. And I only did that for a year, but I learned a valuable lesson from that. And that was like what you mentioned. It was kind of like, okay, here you go.
Yeah.
Are you humble enough to identify, your strengths and weaknesses, and when it comes to money and, people work their whole life, 22-year-old kid manage your finances, you go find someone else. I made that jump from that into working as a receptionist, 12 lines in Sacramento at a homeless clinic.
Really?
Answering lines for $4.36 an hour
Oh man. Wow.
Yeah, so that's how I kind of transitioned. Yeah, 3 blocks or 4 blocks from the Capitol. That was fun. Yeah.
No kidding.
So you kind of make that jump, and it's kind of interesting how it all ties together.
That's wild. Yeah. I had zero experience when I got into the job I have now. I mean, absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
I had terrible teeth. I smoked. I had no idea what this was. My brother actually got the job off.
Right. Yeah.
He was going to college at Chico State, and they were like, hey, they wanted him to have the job. And I remember having a conversation with him talking about it. And at the time, my wife's pregnant. I have zero insurance. I mean, zero insurance, nothing. Didn't even go to the state and apply. I was too dumb to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
And so my wife's pregnant with Hunter, and he's telling me about this job offer. And I'm like, and my brother's the kind of guy who's made the right decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And he had somebody that was showing him what decisions not to make. That was me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he kind of looked at me and went, oh, if I do the opposite of this guy, everything will be okay. So I we were having this conversation. He's like, yeah, these guys want to hire me, but they want me to quit school and start work like right away. He's like, I really want to finish school. I'm like, you know, I have no position to tell you what to do. You do what you want, but if you don't take the position, this is weird. Would you please try and get me an interview? Because I need something. I'm up the creek here. And he's like, okay, yeah, I'll think about it. Like 2 weeks later, he's like, hey, call this number and tell them that you want to talk to them about a job. And that's literally how it works. So I get this job. I have no idea what to do. And I read instruction manuals for like 6 months. Tried to figure out what to tell these doctors that are calling me. Yeah. That was wild. But when you're faced with impending doom, and in my case, a new baby, there's not much you wouldn't do to make it happen, you know. So that's cool though. Honesty is always the best policy.
So far, so good.
No, my mom.
Limited time. You do limited time.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one quality thing that I remember getting taught as a kid. Like, just tell the truth. It's a lot better.
Yeah, I would rather be arrested than go home to my parents.
Really?
Oh yeah. I believed them. I believed everything they said.
Yeah.
Hey, if you mess up, we're going to pick you up the next day.
Yeah.
And I said, okay.
I'm not going to get in trouble.
I'd rather deal with law enforcement.
Yeah.
Than your parents.
Oh, yeah. Good people. Love them to death. Great people.
They'll shut the door. Once that door gets shut, a whole nother...
Very, very grateful.
Yeah.
For my parents and my wife. Thank goodness. Yeah.
Well, so what else? Where do you see yourself going? You know, down the road. You know, you're close to achieving that goal that you always wanted of getting that black belt. Yeah. You know, you're right on the doorstep, knocking on that door. What's next? You know, the black. I mean, you know, because we're kind of facing that. You know, with the black belt. Yeah. You know, you reach that. Me and Dustin. You know, you reach that black belt, and it's like, okay. You know, it's an end, but it's a beginning at the same time. You know, and it's the next step, your second degree, third degree. So,
yeah, you know, that's a great question, and I've of course given it a lot of thought. For me, it's regardless of the belt, I'm still going to train. You know, I think that's the beauty of how I started martial arts because there was no set time.
Yeah, it was not like, hey, in 6 months you have to do this.
You just come in, and how I was. That's the blessing. Meaning, I just come in and train, and when others thought I was ready to promote. Then they'd stop class and promote you. And that's so that mentality of just continue to work on your skill and your craft and continue to learn is where I'm headed. I need to go clean up a lot of different. Jiu-jitsu, I need to clean that up. I started on Eves here, I stopped. I just needed to focus on this goal first, and I'd love to get into somewhere in the East. I think that's just a beautiful
awesome.
art. I mean, I think that is just incredible. But there's, that's kind of where I'd be moving towards. Yoga, I started yoga, that type of stuff. I really think that's important. As you two gentlemen get older, you understand the flexibility.
I need to get back on that horse.
Like huge, and I came late into the game of that because yoga, okay, whatever. No, but it's great. Mobility.
Absolutely, and if I was a single guy that's looking for a wife, I would be hitting up the yoga.
Oh,
like you can't believe.
Yeah.
I'll take that to heart.
Take that to heart, my friend.
There you
Take
go.
that to heart, my friend.
I think you'd look good in yoga pants.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Actually, it's super beneficial for you.
Oh yeah.
My posture's terrible. I walk straighter. My back hurts less. It's good for you. And I was doing it before COVID. I was doing it 5 days a week, 3 days a week at least. And it's fun. It's not. I mean, it's a lot harder than it looks.
Oh yeah.
And it's really good for you. Flexibility, everything. I can't say enough.
Yeah.
But if I had a time machine and could like tell myself what to do, I don't know if I'd tell myself to do anything differently. But I would tell single friends to check out yoga studios.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's where I see it. I see it going. I'd like to teach a little more. I enjoy that.
Yeah.
And then I like working with Sensei Court and you guys because you think, I love sparring Sensei Court, and you think, okay, I got this. And then he raises his game like just a half a notch.
Yeah.
And then you're humbled again. Oh, damn.
Yeah. It's a yo-yo.
Yeah,
it
it's
is
like,
a yo-yo.
Okay, I
that's
think
right.
I got this. Okay, I think I figured this out. You can't figure out nothing. I love it, so there's still a lot to learn, and I always believe in mentors and, that component, so I rely on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, you guys know, you try to find people that are first supportive and that are better than you as it relates to
It brings you up.
and then it makes your game a little cleaner.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm going.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very
so
cool.
you still got obviously hit that black belt and then that's just it's an end, but it's a beginning.
Exactly.
It's you're still gonna keep going. Yeah, that's what do they say? Martial arts is a lifelong pursuit.
Well, and I'm lucky to be at this dojo because of you guys and where you're at with your training. It's nice to see how the two of you in particular have evolved and where you're moving towards. And I kind of, I always say I'm like skiing behind the big boat there. You guys are breaking the wake, and I'm just kind of skiing in the soft water, right?
Oh, thank you.
Right?
That's quite the compliment, sir.
Really. And I, when you guys were testing and when you guys were training, and I gotta be uke and I gotta watch and I gotta participate on the weekends, remember?
Yeah.
And so I'm learning advanced before I needed to, but obviously I wasn't ready, but conceptually I was going, oh, okay, this is what that is, and that's how that works. And so it's been great for me because with the team, I call it the team we have here, is like, okay, you got support.
Yeah.
You've got people that are like-minded, that are on the same, if you would, personal venture or mission or journey, however you want to frame it.
Yeah.
And so that to me is like just gold, And I like you guys, so that helps.
I don't think that it would be very healthy to do something like this with people you don't like.
No.
It would be detrimentally unhealthy.
Well, and for me, this is social. For me.
Yeah. For sure.
Training with you guys, that's my social. That's my.
That's the fun
my
time.
social. I'm not a big, go dining out guy. I'd rather get kicked in the face, get hit, and break some toes.
Yeah,
Let's go break some toes. Yeah. Hey, what are you guys doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm gonna go break my toes.
I go break some toes. Get kicked.
That's a whole other psychological picture.
Take a fall. Get choked out.
Get choked out.
Might as well.
Yeah.
If you're not doing anything else.
Let's go get choked out tonight.
What club do you belong to?
Oh man. But that's something I've always thought that was cool, that you and Maddie, you came in and you guys have just risen through the ranks, together, and just as cool. It's cool to see it as a family thing. Yeah. Like with you and
absolutely,
and you obviously with you and your sons and your wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's huge, having my girls. I want my son out here, and my wife, I'm trying to get her to do our niece, but she's finishing up some educational pursuits. And so that's, I think it's important. I just think it's important, not necessarily to avoid being able, I share with people, to avoid using, your art. I mean, that's the goal, right? We don't want to use it.
Absolutely.
But if we have to, what I like about it is that you have that opportunity to ask that person, how do you want to get hurt? And they can choose. I mean, really, they can choose. They can.
Yeah.
And so it's a nice way to being kind and having people kind of redirect their immediate need for, it may be violence or for anger or whatever it is. So, I always like to have people choose when you get that situation.
Here's your options.
Here's your options.
Yeah. And so it's nice, and Maddie, you guys know Maddie,
Yeah.
obviously, but so she's...
Maddie's awesome.
Yeah, she's a monster. So that's, it's nice for me to see her, and actually Sid, because she's clicking along at a good pace.
Yeah, she is. She's really progressing well.
Yeah, so it's nice to have that, especially, and again, I'm not biased or anything, but especially for my girls, and I say that because they're my girls, so that's important to me.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
it should be.
To defend how they, they're able to, take care of themselves.
Two things. One thing that I really liked about your family and stuff is the dedication. Like Sid, there's a competition between her and her sister, for sure. Like there's a sibling rivalry there.
Oh, yeah.
That's it's comical as a parent to see that, because I see it in my own children, especially with Tom. Like everything brothers want to do, he's on it like white on rice. But Sid was very methodical. She was like, okay, can you help me with this? Yeah. Can you show me what am I doing here? How do I do this? Because I really want to make this good, and that I was like, oh man, and that lit a fire for me. I was like, okay, well, this kid, not that Sid's a kid, but I mean, this kid's working. Yeah. I need to step up and work. I need to get on whatever it is that I need to work on. And so it was really, it lit a fire for me. And it's this like circular thing, like I light a fire for them, they light a fire for me, and, back and forth. And it's really cool to see that and have that there. And so I was really appreciative of her. To pull me aside and be like, okay, I want to work on this. How do I do this better? Blah, blah, blah. So that's really cool. Our black belt test, when you and Maddie and a bunch of others came out, you had said something to me the day of my test, and I'll never forget it. I'm like trying not to hyperventilate and breathe into the paper bag. Trying to calm myself. I showed up an hour early. I'm stretching. I'm like not breaking a sweat, but just warmed up, ready to go, practicing all my stuff. Two other kids show up for their black belt test like five minutes before we're getting ready to go. I'm like, don't you boys need to stretch or warm up? No, we're good.
We're good.
I see that, and I go like white in the face. And Mark comes up to me, and he's like, don't worry, man, you got this. You're better than you think you are. You can do it. Yeah. And it was like, okay, I can handle it now. After that, I was good. So thank you very much for that.
Of course. But,
Huh. I don't think I remember that.
I
didn't see that.
I play mental games with myself all the time, and
you're pretty focused.
I'll freak myself out before I get there if I'm not careful. I have to play the right game. Yeah. And I have to do things to
get your game on.
Well, put myself in the right train of thought. Because if I'm not careful with that, I'll do the anxiety route where I what if this happens? What if that happens? And then it's just this ball rolling down the hill that you can't control.
Well, and now think down the road to the next person that goes and tests for their black belt here. Yeah. You'll be able to then do what Mark did.
Exactly.
And you'll be able to go up to them and say, hey, you've got this, and it's that sphere of influence that you have and the reverberations. Because now that you've gone through that. For my black, we tested on the same day. Yeah. I rolled in. I was like, let's get this done. I'm ready to be a black belt.
Yeah. You're focused.
You were the most, of anybody I've ever seen, ready to do something, whether it's get married, graduate, test for a black belt, whatever. You were one person in my life that I've seen that was like, this is it. I'm done, ready to go. Everything's lined up. I put all the work in. I'm good. And that was really cool to see. But at the same time, I was like, God, don't put me with Tyler. Don't put me with Tyler. Don't put me with Tyler.
Don't what?
Don't put me with Tyler.
Oh.
Oh, no worries. No worries.
Yeah, no.
There we go.
So when Tyler came in taking this test, so with Tyler, what happened, my observation,
Yeah.
4 months prior to the test, something changed. Remember I told you that?
Yeah, you did.
I said, hey, listen, man, I don't know what happened, but something's changed and good for you, because there was a shift. And I spar with you a lot. I spar with you guys.
Yeah.
And it was just different. It was a different vibe. It was a different feel. It was pure business. And I loved it. It just motivated the shit out of me, because I'm thinking, wow, man, he's raised his game. So, oh man, that means more work for me.
Yeah.
Fast forwarding to his test day, when he walked in, there was no one denying this guy.
Oh.
It was just clean. I mean, everything was super clean. So dialed in. I was so
it was
proud.
awesome.
I was so proud to watch you. I didn't want to spar you, but I was proud.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Your black belt test.
You kind of almost wanted somebody to be like,
Yeah,
okay, tell Tyler he can't get his black belt.
Yeah,
just to see what would happen. Yeah.
Yeah, but all you guys nailed it, man. That was so much fun.
It was very cool.
Well, and what I was gonna say is that now that you'll be able to turn around and pass that, with Mark coming up to you and saying, hey, you've got this, that's something that a lot of people go through, and you'll be able to turn around and pass that then, on to somebody else.
Yeah.
That might be coming in and being like, oh, today's the day,
Yeah, nervous and whatnot.
It's those experiences that you go through that it's a common experience, and then that's an opportunity for connection with somebody else.
Exactly.
On something like that. So.
Yeah. It's fun. I have a journal. I've talked about that before, but I periodically go back and look at like, oh, what was I doing on this day? And I just recently went back to that period of a few months where we were working on our black belt test. And like the first couple of times when we were all getting together, like on the Saturdays and after classes and stuff, it was like, this is hard. Or struggles with like, we had Sensei Hovis come down a couple times and Sensei Blue. And there was like all these like emotional peaks and valleys where like I wasn't getting it. I was struggling with something, whatever the case may be. And then, you get it and then it's on to the next thing and it's like right back down in the dumps. And it was really cool to just kind of go back through that and see where I was and what I was going through with all of that. It was interesting. It was cool. I'm glad I have it.
And it seems like it's just yesterday. You're probably going through that and being like, gosh, I remember writing this.
Oh, yeah. Like, for
That's
sure.
what I'm struggling with most, to be transparent with both of you, is when you're going back through it, everything.
Yeah.
I'm going through it. I'm taking each thing, each belt, doing my whole thing. I realize how sloppy my shit is. It's just sloppy.
Yeah.
It's just, it looks sloppy. It's not, clean. It's not, so it's just feel like I want to do better.
Yeah.
You reach a point where you're going, what is good enough? Meaning not necessarily for the test, but what is clean enough?
Yeah.
You can always clean up a technique,
You can always clean stuff up.
I always think it's just.
Well, and see, okay, so that's interesting, because I felt that exact point at the rank you're at, getting close to that black belt.
Oh, for sure.
Because that was like, well, like I'm getting ready to test, but it's like it feels sloppy, and that goes back to the empty your cup, and that's each individual has to do that their own way. Like empty your cup, and you're now circling back around to, it's like our journey from white belt to black belt is like a clock that's going clockwise, right?
Yeah.
And it circles and goes clockwise. Well, now you're nearing back where you started in Wing Dao. That's where you need to really kind of somewhat dump everything and then relearn it in a way for your black belt test right now. And that's the refining process.
That's great advice. I know before I got injured, I was going to the adult class.
Yeah.
Brand new, white belt class just to participate and hear Sensei teach again and
Go over all of
go
that
over
stuff.
the
Yeah.
whole thing, so I can be, like you just mentioned, learn it over. That's huge. But with the injury, it's a blessing because like I said, I can't kick, which I couldn't kick before. So I can broke my foot. So that's a good reason to say, damn, if I hadn't broken my foot, I really couldn't kick before. But I've been working on everyday strikes, and so now I'm putting power, and I can't pivot yet on the foot, but I can pivot on the right side. And so I'm working on power now. So, and I haven't really taken the time to really
Focus on
power to punch through, and so that's been a huge focus for the last month. Just powering and making things clean with all that. So.
Yeah.
Well, I think that I think there was a point in Bruce Lee's training where he injured his back or something.
That's when he wrote his book.
His book, yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's the same thing, kind of like that's an opportunity when you get injured to be real reflective.
Mm-hmm.
Reflective on your where you're at and everything like that.
Yeah. One of my favorite people that I like to read and listen to, Jocko.
Yeah.
His answer to everything is good, bad, or indifferent. You got hurt, good.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you need to slow down and reevaluate things and look at it. Good. This getting hurt gives you an opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, you're sick today? Good. Or you got fired? Good. Go look for another job. Everything's good.
That's why that shirt says good.
Good. Yes. Yeah. And you notice it's written in reverse. So when you look in the mirror, you can read it to yourself. But yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I know exactly what you're going through. I know that you feel sloppy. You feel like clumsy, uncoordinated. It's like you get to this whole point where you're like, my gosh, I'm about ready to test for
and I can't do this
my
anymore.
black belt test, and I can't even throw a kick. There was actually one point that I remember when I realized I was either, I want to say a brown belt, but I want to say I was advanced brown belt, right, getting ready to test. And I remember this moment very distinctly. We were over in the corner right there of the dojo, and you and I were sparring. Very distinct moment. And you kept hitting me and hitting me and hitting me and I was rather than being present in the moment and responding accordingly or trying to do like a simultaneous block and counter, you kept hitting me, and I was trying so hard to maintain my middle stance and keep my left hand up in front of my face and my right hand closer to my elbow. It changes, but it gets more close to your wrist the more advanced you get. But I was focused so hard on structure and making sure my feet were pointing forward, and I had both of my feet toes towards you, so I could kick with either foot, that I wanted to, and my hands up, and my knees were bent, and it just felt so rigid to me. And it was a very distinct moment, and you just kept hitting me, and all I could do instead of I just blocked and blocked, and it was a very interesting. That was like a real breakthrough moment for me. Was having that realization that something needed to change. And I just felt I felt at the same time sloppy but rigid, and I was like, man, I've got to make this martial art my own. It's got to become my own. I can't spar the way Sensei Court wants me to spar. Exactly. What your teacher gives you something, passes on the art to you, but it's got, at some point it has to become your art, right? Somebody hands you a hammer, they can show you how to use a hammer to nail a nail, but eventually you got to figure out how you hold it yourself, and it works just right just for you.
Well, and to your point, though, the beauty of this art is that no form way.
No form way.
Yeah.
And to me, I eat that up because there's a lot of limitations, as far as But to take it and you hit it right and then make it your own within the conceptual component. I mean, philosophically and how you're targeting.
You have like the blueprints.
You can make it your own.
You have like the blueprint.
The blueprint. That's the good way.
It's your decision. Like, okay, so I got the blueprints. The room's over here. The bathroom's here. Here's the kitchen. Here's the living room. How am I going to paint this house? Are we going to decorate it this way? We're going to put the couch here. That's, like you got the confines of the four walls. What you put in there and how you decorate it are kind of like what you do there.
I think that's a great point. When you mentioned, when we're talking about as you continue moving down the path, that sloppiness part, in your mind's eye, you're seeing how it should look.
Yes.
And you're seeing such a clean, crisp.
Oh, yeah.
Sensei cord, you're seeing Sensei Hovis, blue. It's just everything is like on line. The lines are nice, the angles are nice, and then I get to Mark's angles and holy hell, what happened here?
Yeah.
What the hell? What the hell is this guy doing? You know what I mean? And then you feel like a fraud. I'm going, my God, I've been training my ass off. It's not that good. It's not that pretty.
Yeah.
It's not pretty. And so I appreciate that feedback.
Yeah. Also on the flip side of this, I've had that same experience where like the other day we were doing like I had to hit with one type of punch. All I'm allowed to use is my round punch or my hook. That's it. And the partners can do whatever they want. And I'm trying to focus so hard on I got to hit this round punch. And like how can I do that? Like what it messes you up. Like you're talking about focusing on are my hands in the right position, or my feet pointing the right way. You spend so much time focusing on this. He doesn't care. He's just hitting you.
He's just hitting you. Because you at the point you were like a red belt, or and so you were at that point. Sorry, not.
No. What you're saying is right on line. Go for it.
Yeah, and so it's when you get close to that black belt point, you start saying. You just got to empty that cup, and that art has to become your own, and it just has to be. That's the point when I really started saying like I can't compare myself to
X, Y, and Z.
Y, and Z, and so what? At this point, for my black belt, if my hands drop a little bit, but that's where I'm comfortable at. I'm not saying they're down at my side. No. That's not what I'm saying. No. But rather than having my one hand between my face and your face as a theoretically perfect shield, if I drop it a little bit, or maybe my body blades just a hair, rather than being full on frontal, which I'm actually comfortable full on frontal. But it was all about just relaxing on where am I comfortable? How do I want to spar? How do I want to fight? And I think part of the sloppiness came from, for me, was coming from trying to be so perfect that it falls short. Like I know exactly what you're talking about, and it happened right over there. And I have plenty of moments sparring you, Dustin, too, where I realize stuff too.
Yeah. Well, and it's if you try and draw a straight line perfectly straight, it doesn't happen. You can't make it straight, no matter how hard you focus on that one individual thing. But if you just take a pencil and slash it across the paper, that line's pretty damn straight, right? Yeah. And it's there's a Buddhist thing or a Zen thing that's like it's the doing without doing, or the crap, I can't remember, but it's like you do it without care of how it turns out, kind of thing. You just do it. Don't focus on it. Just do it, kind of thing. It's the outcome. Yeah, the outcome is more important than the effort or some. I'm gonna garble this up. Anyway, and it happens for me if I focus so hard on something, what a project or fixing something like my van, for instance. I was so freaked out and so concerned that it was the charging system. I had car troubles all the last month. I was so concerned, convinced that it was the charging system, the alternator, the battery, something in the electrical thing, that it didn't realize, it was electrical, but it was the fuse operating the fuel pump that was bad. I didn't think to look back there because I was so focused at the front of the car. I didn't go to the back of the car and listen with the key off. Yeah. All I had to do was walk the 10 feet to the back of the car, and you could hear the freaking fuel pump running like a son of a gun, as long as the battery had juice in it. You could hear it clear as day. Yeah. But I was so focused at the front that I didn't take the big picture into it. Yeah. And I'm probably wrong here in my assumption, but it seemed to me like you were so focused on what you needed to do, and was my stance right, or my hands where they need to be, or my toes pointed the right way. You're so focused on that when you should have been focused on getting punched and kicked by Mark that you ignored Mark completely because you're like, oh, my hand dropped, my foot's here, my foot's there, blah, blah, bang. And Mark's just like, oh, free field day here,
Target, wham.
And we all do that to a certain point, sports analogy, like as a kid, I played Little League, I did basketball, I played all this stuff. When I focused on trying to do my best is when I sucked. Like every time I'd like get all psyched up and I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this. And then I sucked. When I just went out and had fun and was laughing and clowning around, I was smoking. I was doing so good.
Because you're relaxed.
Of just having a good time. I focused on having fun. There was no danger in winning or losing. I didn't care. That's when I was sinking 3-pointers and passing and getting assists and doing all the fun, Yeah. I was like, man, I need to find that and do that all the time. Well, so does everyone else,
It's such a paradox. That's such a paradox to say, oh, I don't care about the outcome, but then you're still trying to do good at the same time or win, like it's such a paradox.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, because as you guys know, when we're tasked with one punch, or when we're tasked with being told during sparring, this is what you're working on. Don't stay on your goal.
Stay on your goal.
Stay on your goal. No matter what, stay on your goal. And you're getting the snot knocked out of you. And don't get off your goal. Don't get off your goal. And it's that discipline, and what I think it teaches you that yes, you have a goal and how you get there, but also getting back to empty your cup. Don't have a plan. And then when somebody gives you a plan, that makes you adjust mentally to do what you need to do. Because you're not prepared. If you're saying, okay, just so stay with 1-1. Right. Well, I'm not a 1-1 guy. I'm usually a 4-1,
4-2.
I want to feel you out a little bit first, I'm just, we're dating here. I don't want to go,
we're dating. I'm not going to the wedding yet.
I want to see what you're about, Yeah. But to have that coaching or that direction to go, okay, this is what you're doing. Boom, you got to let everything else go, because that wasn't your plan. That's what you've got to focus on. And it's fun, but it's tough. And it's tough. Very difficult, and it's very painful, Uh-huh. And then you got to let go of the whole, what it could look like. I don't have a problem with being humble in here, because, but I can imagine some folks I see some folks struggle with,
for sure,
not being able to, not necessarily stay focused. I'm not saying that, but more of, it's just a training mechanism, not a representation of who we are.
Right, exactly.
Because you don't want to, it used to be important years ago. Oh, when I'm sparring, not here, but a long time ago in jiu-jitsu, I always wanted to win.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to win. I love to win. I don't play unless I win. I love to win, and I'm okay with that. But it's different when you finally conceptualize that it's not about.
We're not trying to win.
It's about the training and about the experience and what once you get that out, and you can see with newer folks coming in. I mean, and everyone goes through it as a white belt. Everybody wants, that's why it's terrifying to spar a white belt. Right?
it is.
Yeah,
They
you're
want
going, okay, and you're going, okay, slow down, let's relax, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's that win, and you have ego, especially adult men in particular.
Oh yeah.
We
It's a caveman syndrome.
We have these egos, and oh my gosh, I got to prove myself, and so that's where I think we might lose folks because of people's own ego. People get caught up in that. Wow, these guys can really, kick my ass, or these guys can really, and then we're not, but there's that ego piece that you'll see some parents, adult parents, they kind of sit on the side. They want to play. They want to get in there.
They want to.
Absolutely.
You can just
feel it. It's
like, what I mean?
It radiates. Yeah.
But can you go in there and just kind of humble yourself to say, hey, I'm okay, being hit, or okay learning. Okay learning, I think.
Learning is and
dealing with the ego.
Yeah.
Dealing with that. I mean, because that's what you come out on the mat with. That's the ego.
And you wouldn't be here if you didn't have an ego.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not minimizing that. We all have big egos in this room. I mean, I'm not going to deny that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But can you put that aside to advance in whatever your goal might be? And that's both professional and just here as well. I mean,
there's a guy that talks about losing, and he's like, you're not losing, you're learning.
Yeah.
If you take every opportunity, he talks about how he loves to lose.
Yep.
Because he goes, eventually, I'm going to learn. And when I do learn all the things that I need to learn, you ain't going to be able to stop me.
Well, and I believe that to a certain extent. I mean, you have to learn to lose.
Yeah.
And that's different than losing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If you learn to lose, that's like, when you ask people, are you a leader or a follower? Well, the best leaders are better followers.
Mm-hmm.
That's how come they became good leaders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they were observant, mindful of the situation, and be able to then be a good leader because they're a good follower. And that's the same thing with losing. I mean, if you can learn to lose, and it's tough,
It sucks.
It's not easy.
It ain't easy.
Nobody wants to lose.
Yeah.
But the losing, if you can learn to lose, and as you said, what you learn from losing
makes you better.
I would, I like that that concept that you brought up, because it's, I feel 10 times worse winning on what I could have done better than losing. I mean, losing, you expect it,
Yeah.
You're not,
and it makes
not the best person ever.
It makes that victory so much sweeter too.
When you do win.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. When you, especially when you get your lunch handed to you,
Yeah, that's what I mean. You win after
learning
to lose.
after like Sensei Court. Okay. Dude just had my number for years, right? I mean, just for the longest time, I felt like there was nothing I can do. Like, can I even touch this guy?
Yeah,
I just want to touch him.
Hey, you don't need to explain.
Yeah.
But I lost my soda there, because absolutely, no need to explain that.
Yeah, but then you keep trying. It's like the hamster on the wheel. I'm just going to keep spinning this wheel. Eventually, I'm going to figure it out. And then the first time you get that hit, it's like, oh yeah, you go home, $1 million. You feel like $1 million, and then you kind of get his number a little bit. You figure something out, and then he changes it. It's this whole process of back and forth. But when you finally get there and you can handle it, that's like, oh man, that was like hitting a home run, winning the lottery, and getting married all the same. It was awesome. It's great.
Sparring Sensei is like, when I'm sparring him.
Yeah.
To me, it's always he's playing with his food.
That's how it feels like.
That's a good way to put it.
He's just playing with his food.
That's
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. You know what I mean?
You're the food that's getting played.
Yeah, he's just playing with his food.
How do I want to take a bite?
The only time I ever was successful, I got one. We were doing a little drill out here, right?
Yeah.
And he said, "Okay, Mark, come in." So then we're doing like a minute or whatever.
Yeah.
I hit him once and got the point, and then I stayed away from him.
Danced away.
And that's my claim to fame.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, I remember I stayed away from him.
Yeah, you just circled the whole time.
Played the game.
He's flying. He's coming too. I was just all over.
Like the Matrix.
I outlasted him, man.
That's.
That was it. I got lucky with one. Boom! Right there.
Yeah.
And then I did one of these. Oh shit! He's coming! He's coming!
Now he's coming.
Bob and weave.
I've never ran so fast. I stayed in the ring because I learned my lesson. Stay in
the ring.
He can push you out and come in and hit you and get a point. Or
Yeah.
Dancing.
Dancing around, man.
That's
Staying
awesome.
mobile.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's those moments and yeah.
I live for that stuff now.
Well,
You know, that's my fave. Well, hey, I don't even know how long we've been at it.
You got any?
We're almost at 2 hours, so
Okay.
that's good time. Thank you very much. I mean, I don't want to cut it off. If you guys want to keep going, we can keep going. But
I just want to thank both of you. I mean, again, I think the world of both you guys. I appreciate all your support since they court, the whole team. I think it's, you guys are great guys to be around. And this was a lot of fun. And again, I told you this was, having me here is scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Oh,
So
not even
I figured
close
let
yet.
you guys get loosened up so I don't ruin all your clicks or whatever you're looking for.
No, we're still.
Snap, baby.
I kind of feel like this here. We just got our white belt.
Yeah.
We're still getting our feet underneath us. We're still learning, and there's a whole process to it. And I feel like I just took a eyedropper out of a 5-gallon bucket and not even, just got the one drop out. So we're still figuring this stuff out. So you were definitely on our short list of people that we wanted to talk to.
Well, again, these guys aren't too choosy, so I want to make
No.
that very clear.
Love to have you on again and talk to you anytime you ever want to.
Sure. whatever you guys-
And your girls as well. Open invitation there. So just real quick, thank you guys very much for listening, friends. We are on Twitter, Formless_pod, at Formless_pod. I think that's right. At Gmail, you can email us at formlesspod@gmail.com. Like it, share it, subscribe to it. We're going to have YouTube up here shortly. That's the next goal I have working on. Appreciate everybody that's reached out to us. Appreciate everybody that listens. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it, man.